You are presently seated in a chamber teeming with people. You hear their voices, you read their words, and you feel the unmistakable weight of their presence. Then, without warning, someone approaches and informs you, this chamber is empty. You are the sole human being within it. Everything you heard, everything you read, everything you were convinced was real, none of it was. I wish to recount for you an experience that did not befall any single individual in particular, but which unfolds daily for millions of souls who have never once crossed paths. You open a platform, any platform. You encounter a fierce, blazing debate surrounding a subject that matters to you. Political, societal, it makes no difference. You sense that an overwhelming majority stands in diametric opposition to your own convictions. Their stance appears assured, cohesive, and repeated with an uncanny, almost mechanical regularity. And so you find yourself asking, am I the one who is mistaken? Does everyone perceive something I have failed to see? You close the platform. You do not comment, you do not share, you simply entomb your opinion within yourself. No argument persuaded you. No one engaged you in genuine discourse. And yet you fell silent. This is not a personal failing. This is what social scientists have long termed the spiral of silence, our innate, deeply human tendency to conceal our convictions the moment we believe ourselves to be in the minority. What you do not know, however, is that the majority you perceive does not exist at all. Do you recall the last time you encountered something that felt genuinely human on the internet? I mean that particular fleeting moment when you read someone's words and thought to yourself, this is a person speaking, this resembles me. When was that? In all likelihood, you require some time to remember, for such moments have grown far rarer than they once were. Not because you have changed, but because something changed before you did around you, within the very web you believe you inhabited. In recent years, a theory has proliferated through digital circles, known as some as the dead internet theory. It is not a conspiracy theory in the classical sense, nor is it merely the nostalgic lament of those who pine for the era of old forums and personal blogs. Rather, it is a deeply unsettling hypothesis that asserts what you see on the internet today is, for the most part, no longer created by human beings. The comments you read, the accounts you follow, the discussions that appear ferocious and alive, the voices that rise with declarations here and opinions there, the overwhelming majority of them do not belong to people. They are machines conversing with machines. While you sit in the spectator's seat, convinced you are witnessing genuine debates, authentic interactions, and living, breathing existence. Yet before you dismiss this hypothesis as exaggeration, permit me to pose a single question. Have you ever noticed how the comments beneath any major piece of news appear strikingly, unnervingly similar? Not merely in meaning, but in rhythm, in the very architecture of the sentence, in the manner they respond to one another, as though they were rehearsed replies prepared in advance for a theater to which you were never invited. If you have noticed this, even once, you are not imagining things. You have simply begun to see and to comprehend the truth. Were we to cast our gaze back, even briefly, we would surely recall how the internet once was. Beautiful, magnificent chaos. No algorithm curated your experience. No engineered feed was designed to hold you captive longer than was necessary. There existed a forum administered by some anonymous soul with a passion for astrophysics, a blog belonging to a young woman chronicling her life in a city you had never heard of, and humble HTML pages crafted by people who wished only to declare, "We are here, and this is what occupies our minds." Genuine human experiences, authentic emotions and sentiments, real, unmediated thought. The content was not necessarily brilliant, but it was real. Then came the counterfeit. And it was not necessarily the offspring of some conspiracy hatched by shadowy organizations in clandestine gatherings. No, the matter is far simpler than that, and precisely for that reason, far more disturbing. For when the great corporations discovered that the internet could function as an advertising apparatus without ceiling or limit, the re-engineering of everything commenced. Platforms were no longer spaces that allowed people to connect. They became elaborate systems engineered to convert your attention into a commodity sold by the second. As for the algorithm, it is nothing more than a machine devoted to answering a single question: what keeps this person on the platform for the longest time possible? Not necessarily what benefits them, nor what genuinely delights them, but whatever arrests their gaze for 3 more seconds, then 3 more, then 3 more still. And once this became the governing standard, the content that flourished in its wake became a particular breed: sensational, shallow, endlessly replicable. And as this content proved triumphant, people began producing ever greater quantities of it, and as platforms required yet more advertising space to fill, they required yet more content to fill it. And so the cycle perpetuated itself, revolving without end. Do you see how the machinery operates? Yet human beings, even in their most profit-driven pursuits, are slow. They grow weary. They repeat themselves. They sleep. Machines, however, do not sleep. And it is precisely here that the second actor entered the scene: the armies of bots. Yet they did not arrive all at once, nor was their coming announced. They infiltrated gradually and silently, precisely as most great transformations do, until the day arrived when you looked around and asked yourself, when did this happen? In the final years of the first decade of the third millennium, bots were clumsy, rudimentary instruments, identifiable at a glance. A comment written in dead, lifeless language, an account devoid of any photograph, responses bearing no connection whatsoever to the surrounding context. They resembled an actor wearing a mask in broad daylight. Deceptive, yes, but transparent. Then the language models evolved. Then came generative artificial intelligence. And at that moment, the actor ceased to wear a mask because he had learned at last to change his very face. Today, when you open any platform and read a comment that appears perfectly human, with its calculated spelling errors, its measured emotion, its manner of reply that convinces you there is a living soul behind it, there exists no genuine guarantee that such a person is there at all. Not in this room, nor in any room. This is not a literary metaphor, nor the description of some fleeting anomaly. This is precisely what researchers who have spent years mapping these patterns have concluded, arriving, in the end, at figures and statistics that are nothing short of staggering. But before the numbers, there is a deeper question that must be posed. Who desires this, and why? For a machine of this magnitude, naturally, is never built without purpose. Allow me to place before you certain figures, not as an exhaustive account, but as illustrations sufficient to reveal the vast chasm between sensing that something is wrong and knowing that something is wrong. In 2017, Facebook disclosed in official documents submitted to its investors that between 60 and 90 million accounts on its platform were either fabricated or duplicated. Independent researchers subsequently revised that number considerably upward. Yet even the officially declared figure alone is enough. 90 million accounts, approximating the population of a sizable nation, on a single platform in a single year. 90 million accounts with no living human being behind them. These came to be known by a term that has since entered common parlance: content farms. As for Twitter, before its renaming, acknowledged in 2022 that no fewer than 5% of its active accounts were bots. This figure surfaced at the heart of a prominent legal dispute, during which Elon Musk's team estimated the true proportion to be far greater, perhaps 4 times the declared number. The controversy was never fully resolved, but the debate itself speaks volumes. Earlier still, in 2018, Indiana University published a study revealing that bots were responsible for disseminating between 45 and 60% of all links shared on Twitter during peak news periods. That is to say, half of everything you encountered when a major event shook the world was spread without a single human finger pressing a button. Pause and contemplate that. And yet, as staggering as these figures are, the true shock lies in the fact that they belong to the era before generative artificial intelligence, before models that now compose fluently in any language and replicate the cadences of human writing with a precision that renders detection to the naked eye nearly impossible. As for today, no comprehensive and verified statistic exists, and this absence is itself cause for alarm, for it suggests that the problem has metastasized beyond the capacity of existing tools to measure it. Firms specializing in monitoring internet traffic, such as Imperva, estimate that approximately half of all global internet activity today is non-human. Once more, pause and contemplate. Half of all that moves across the network. Half of every click, every request, every interaction. And the bitter irony is that the platforms are aware of this. Some even conscripted in their service, and this is not conjecture, but knowledge purchased at considerable cost. For when bots inflate user counts and amplify engagement metrics, they make a platform appear larger and more vibrant than it truly is, and that illusion is precisely what platforms sell to advertisers. You are not merely paying to be seen by human beings, you are paying to be seen by everyone, including those who do not exist. This is not an incidental malfunction within the system. It is a feature of how the system was designed to function. It is worth noting in this context that certain major platforms, YouTube foremost among them, have in recent times mounted campaigns against this phenomenon, launching sweeping operations that resulted in the closure of hundreds of thousands of channels operated entirely by bots and fandom accounts. Yet in practice, these campaigns have tended to aggravate the problem rather than resolve it, owing to their wholesale reliance on blind artificial intelligence algorithms that lack human sensibility and contextual discernment, algorithms that conflate, without distinction, authentic human creative work that employs technology with content generated entirely by technology. They suppress purposeful, meaningful content while amplifying the shallow and the vapid. This digital arbitrariness has caused, or is in the process of causing, a mass exodus of hundreds of serious creators and content producers who have abandoned the platform in search of more equitable environments, leaving behind an intellectual, creative, and deeply human void. And the inevitable consequence of this zero-sum equation is to cede ever more territory to the dead internet, allowing it to metastasize unchecked across a space increasingly evacuated of the human spirit, until what remains is software generating content for other software, in a hollow, self-perpetuating loop entirely devoid of genuine creativity or genuine human presence. And here the question becomes more disturbing than any statistic. If at least half of what you see is fabricated and half of what you engage with does not exist, then what precisely does the phrase public opinion mean? And what does it mean when a subject rises to dominate the headlines and you feel as though all of humanity is speaking of it at once? Who holds that button? Let us first agree that when we speak of the falsification of the digital realm, we are not speaking of some adolescent in his bedroom running bots to inflate his follower count. That exists, certainly, but it occupies the margin of the picture, not its center. What we're speaking of is something far larger, far more organized, and its hazy outline grows sharper the moment we begin to ask, who benefits from the internet's transformation into a dead space, where machines converse with machines? The first and most conspicuous beneficiary is the platforms themselves. We touched upon this earlier, but warrants a closer, more deliberate examination. Social media platforms do not sell a product, they sell your attention. And the price of attention in the advertising marketplace rises in direct proportion to how vibrant, how engaged, and how far-reaching a platform appears to be. Bots manufacture this illusion at a fraction of the cost of any genuine human content. You may ask, does the platform not forfeit its credibility when the deception is exposed? The disquieting answer is not necessarily. For the advertiser, too, is not in pursuit of truth, he's in pursuit of numbers. And the user does not abandon the platform upon discovering that it harbors bots. Where, after all, would he go? Every alternative suffers from the very same affliction. The second beneficiary is the industrial content economy. This face of the problem is less dramatic, yet perhaps the most pervasive in our daily lives. There exists an entire industry, corporations, agencies, and private individuals that sustains itself by producing content in bulk. For the purposes of search engine optimization, the populating of phantom pages, and the generation of engagement sufficient to persuade the algorithm that a particular piece of content merits amplification. This industry has flooded the network with billions of pages that no one reads and billions of comments that no one wrote, all for a single purpose: to deceive one automated system by means of another. The consequence is that when you search for information, the first pages you encounter will most likely present content manufactured for the search engine rather than for you. And when you read about the 10 finest restaurants in your city, you may well be reading prose composed by someone who has never once set foot in it. The third beneficiary, and the most perilous, is whoever seeks to sculpt public opinion. Here the picture grows more intricate and far less legible. Not because the evidence is scarce, but because it ramifies in every direction. What the reports of the United States Senate laid bare in the aftermath of the 2016 elections, and what the Oxford Internet Institute has meticulously documented over the course of many years, conveys a single truth through many different voices: that organized digital influence operations, whether launched by governments, corporations, or interest groups, have come to rely, in a deeply systematic way, upon networks of fabricated accounts that do not express genuine opinion, but rather fabricate the illusion of consensus. And the mechanism is astonishing in its simplicity. When you read an opinion and find beneath it 100 comments in agreement, your disposition toward that opinion shifts. Not because the argument persuaded you, but because the human mind has been conditioned across millennia to assume that whatever the multitude affirms must, by necessity, be true, though the primordial nature of things testifies to the precise opposite. It is for this reason that when the Almighty spoke of the majority, he described them as those of whom most do not know, most are ignorant, and most are averse to the truth. And when he spoke of the few, he said, "And few of my servants are truly grateful, and except those who believed and did righteous deeds, and how few they are." Psychologists term this phenomenon social proof, known also as the herd mentality or the impulse of blind conformity. And the architects of digital influence know it intimately. They build upon it with precision, for they have no need to convince you. They need only to make you feel that you are the minority. Three beneficiaries then. Three motives, three tiers of influence. Yet they converge upon a single target, you the user seated before the screen, so that you may never know which layer of it you presently inhabit. And this is precisely the intention. For a person who knows he is being deceived will resist. But one who cannot discern the origin of the noise, nor the purpose behind it, will settle for that vague and nameless unease, the feeling that something is not quite right, and then return to scrolling. It is this vague unease, above all else, that demands we pause here and now. There is an ancient wisdom that says, if you are not paying for the product, then you are the product. And beneath the surface, something quieter and deeper transpires in the background, something difficult to name with precision, for it resembles fog. Something that makes you feel as though conversations on the internet have begun to revolve in a vacuum. You write, and what returns to you has not read what you wrote. You pose a question and receive a ready-made answer to an entirely different one. You reach out toward another human being and collide instead with the echo of your own voice in a room you believe to be full. And gradually, without ever making the conscious decision, you begin to treat the digital realm the way you treat the television, something you consume rather than something you inhabit. You cease to expect genuine dialogue. You cease to invest yourself emotionally in what you write. You cease slowly to be present at all. This is the most perilous effect of all. The dead internet does not impel you to believe the lie. It impels you to abandon the search for truth. Meanwhile, every discussion of it concludes in the same predictable fashion. Return to small communities, verify your sources, use decentralized platforms, disable the algorithm. Reasonable counsel and well-intentioned, but regrettably, largely futile. Not because it is wrong, but because it presupposes that the problem is one of individual habits, correctable by individual decisions. It is rather like telling someone who lives in a poisoned city, simply breathe more carefully. Yet what unsettles me far more than the bots, the algorithms, and the artificial intelligence, all of which are at their core, technical problems, and technical problems admit of technical solutions, however slow and halting, detection tools, regulatory legislation, verification standards. What unsettles me far more is this: that we human beings, in the face of this deluge of bots, have ourselves begun to behave like bots. We share without reading. We rage without understanding. We agree in unison without thinking. We produce ready-made replies to questions that were never directed at us. We generate content engineered to gratify an algorithm rather than to carry an idea. We learn the rhythm that succeeds. We repeat it endlessly, and somewhere along the way, we lose something of the voice that was ours alone. This is the most dangerous thing the dead internet has wrought. It has not merely filled the space with machines. It has taught human beings how to conduct themselves as machines. The internet, then, was always more a mirror than a window, reflecting back what we wished to behold, hope when we were capable of hoping, emptiness when emptiness was all we sought. If this is true, if what we encounter in the network is indeed a reflection of what we ourselves have become, then the question is no longer about the internet at all. The question is about us, about what we seek when we open that screen, and about our capacity to distinguish the genuine from the fabricated. There is a term psychologists employ to describe what occurs when an individual becomes incapable of discerning between what is real and what has been constructed within his informational environment. They call it cognitive overload. And it is a condition that has nothing to do with ignorance. One may be learned, well read, and cultivated and still suffer from it. What it describes, rather, is the exhaustion born of the act of verification itself. For when everything becomes suspect, the very labor of suspicion grows unbearable, and the mind retreats to the shortest available path, believing whatever brings comfort or growing indifferent to whatever brings disquiet. Both responses, it must be said, suit perfectly those who hold the button. And yet, for all of this, the internet has not perished entirely. There remain real human beings who write with sincerity. There remain small communities where genuine human dialogue still transpires. There remain moments, fewer than there once were, but present nonetheless, in which one person reaches through a screen and touches another. And this very video you are watching, if you have continued watching until now, is itself the most eloquent testament to that truth. You are listening to my words, even if they reach you through an automated narrator, accompanied by automated imagery, yet they carry still my trace and my spirit, the words of a human being writing for another human being in one of those rare moments of sincerity. But such moments now require deliberate searching and sustained effort. They no longer arrive of their own accord, as once they did. And that, in itself, tells us something about the distance we have drifted from ourselves, without ever having chosen to depart.